So I want to go back to the first Star Wars movie, just that one.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
we're a similar-ish age. What year were you born?
67.
So I was 71 for me.
Yeah.
The
So
very
you are
first,
a youngling. I got you.
a little bit. I don't feel a youngling. I feel like Liam Neeson compared to your Ewan McGregor. The very first Star Wars movie. What are your memories of that whole time period? Because I was 7 when I saw it. Because we didn't get it till 1978 here in the UK. It opened the end of January. You guys got it May 77, so we had to wait ages.
Right. Wow, man. But there wasn't the internet to spoil. You just picked up a sci-fi magazine and were like, wow, man. That was the first PG movie I had gone to see. And everything else had just been Disney fare, whether it was Apple Dumpling Gang or I mean, let's see here. Yeah, because that was before, I mean, maybe Star Trek was PG, but I can't remember.
Yeah, Star Trek was,
that was after,
79.
Right?
That was a U.
Yeah,
actually, I think.
Yeah.
It was
but
UK.
I remember thinking, wow, man, this is going to change me somehow. And I still remember vividly, we parked across the street from the movie theater and walked across the street, and it was the whole four of us, the family. And I had this anxiety, like, I've never seen a PG movie, So, and then I remember, this is going back in time a little, almost like the too many tropes in different TV shows. But I remember watching the trailer with my granddad, probably, like 3-4 months before we saw it in the movie theater. And, like the news guy was saying, yeah, this is really weird. They don't know what to think about and stuff. But it was where you saw the stormtroopers and the Millennium Falcon rose and then took off. And so, but I mean, like, my granddad didn't know what to make of it. He was old. I mean, he liked the TV show Beretta and stuff, right?
Yeah.
So that was his style. And so I was like, man, this is weird. I don't know what I'm going to see. But once the music, the 20th Century Fox drums and everything happened, and their fanfare, and then boom, man, we were into Star Wars, and the whole opening credits scrolling, and everything was different, man. And so it really changed me. But I mean, we got to the end, and it was, I didn't know how to process it at that age. I was just 10. And then I remember the second time I saw it was up in Williamsburg, Virginia, with my grandparents, my dad's parents. And he was just, we've got to go see this. So it was just to have that kind of momentum in the movie theater. And then up in Williamsburg instead of Albemarle, at the end, then everybody stood up and started applauding. And I was like, what is going on, man?
Yep.
I mean, like, that was just like a month after I'd seen it locally. But that was the first movie theater where everybody applauded, man. It was, it was
perfect age, weren't you? 10 is the
100%,
perfect age to
man.
have seen it.
Yeah.
I mean, I was 7, so I'm a little bit on. I don't have too many memories of seeing the film in the theater. I remember the vague memories, but I remember the after effects of it, where you couldn't. There was Star Wars cereals, Star Wars sticker books, the original dozen Star Wars figures started to come out. Right. Star Wars soundtrack albums, official and unofficial ones. Star Wars by the Boston Pops or whatever it was. You're like,
right?
Hell? Everywhere was Star Wars, Star Wars posters, Star Wars masks, everything. And then life was never quite the same again, really, was it?
It really wasn't. And when I guess the benefit of them not showing Star Wars until 78 for the UK, at least they had some action figures that you could go and get, because when we bought the pre-order, we had a cardboard cutout.
Oh, you had the card, because I've seen those in documentaries. With like, we owe you a card. And you're like, we owe you a figure. Yeah. You're like, so you just paid for that? What the hell? So that was a thing. Wow.
Yeah. And I remember the action figures themselves, man, they were probably $4 a piece, which back in the day, that was steep. I mean, certainly George Lucas, banked it well and kept writing, all that stuff. I'm going to slide out for a second. I'm going to go grab something. The
Okay.
first Star Wars thing that I bought.
Oh, this is where I keep talking again. So those on the video can have a look. While John's not there, you can see his nice little Star Wars collection, including a really cool Scout Walker, I might add. But that's from Jedi, so we're not going to talk about that on this particular episode.
Right.
And John's back. Wow.
There you go, man. C-3PO mask, and it's latex.
Yeah.
And I thought this was a Don Post, but this predates Don Post. And the thing actually says 77, and I can't read it. I have to put on my glasses, but I think it was that Christmas. We were up in Williamsburg again, because that's where Dad's parents lived. And Williamsburg, Virginia is, it's like, there's a historical side like colonial Williamsburg, which I guess is, more like, when we first, bid you guys adieu when we came over here. So, but they had the most magnificent toy store that had little figures to big figures and stuff. And then you go up, like train sets and all that stuff. And then you go up to the second floor and they had masks and magic and stuff. And my first mask, which is falling apart, I had to throw it away, was a werewolf mask from the original Universal Studios werewolf. And then 3PO was my second mask. And I had, you've got little eye holes. And it is an abyss inside, yes. But my friends would come over and they thought it was so weird that I would put this thing on my head. They were like, "You don't know what's in there." Yeah, I do.
Your head.
It's just the mask. Right. But they were just kind of, concerned and afraid. And yeah, man. One of these days, if you want, I'll pull out my original set of Star Wars action figures and we can kind of go through those if that would help your Star Wars channel at all. And yeah, man. But it was, and after the fact, like I guess maybe 20 years ago, 15, somewhere in there, where, I found out the value of some of these figures. And then too, when I see, like the Jawas going for like 5,000 a piece, and I'm like, wow. And then I go thinking that, Mandela effect or whatever, that I have the ones with the non-cloth capes. No, I've got the first edition cloth capes. And so, and then, like none of my action figures, Obi-Wan, Luke, or Darth Vader, has the extra extension on the lightsaber.
Yeah.
So, but still, it's very nostalgic for me to pull those toys out periodically and just, the original land speeder, the original dewback with the little.
The land speeder. I remember the land speeder.
Yeah. And 3PO, and of course 3PO and R2D2 didn't really look like the way they did in the movie. Nor did Han or anybody really.
Nor did a lot. The Luke Skywalker one, he had yellow hair, didn't he? Like just yellow hair. There was no blonde. It was like yellow.
Yeah.
But we used our imagination though, didn't we? We were like, that is Luke Skywalker. That is Darth Vader. That is the Death Squad commander, whatever a Death Squad commander is. But that's the name of the figure. Go figure. It's just got a weird name, but
right. And then when Empire came out, and you've got, now they can plan ahead. Now you've got a larger host of action figures and stuff. And I don't, like with my kids, my older kids, they wanted, they grew up with the prequels. So that was their big screen Star Wars. And it was interesting, like I still have the communicator, which was probably 3 times bigger than it was, in Phantom Menace. But you would hold the little cards up to it, the little things or whatever, and it would do the voice of these different characters. And Emily so loved Princess Leia's line from New Hope, get this walking carpet out of my way. And so she would just sit there and play it over and over and over again. But that was still cool for me because that proved that Star Wars was going to continue to inspire kids and stuff. And so Yeah, man. And it's I know I've shown you my collection of DL-44s, which is, the blaster that Han had originally, and then Luke had one, and became kind of ordinary. But yeah, man. And originally, I was like, man, if I can just get one of those, and then I was like, man, if I could just get one per movie, and then I've got a collection of everything that was screen used.
Yeah.
No, that's not the case at all. So yeah, so like 8 guns later, I mean, supposedly I have everything that was used. But you're right, man. We used our imagination.
Yeah.
Did you make a lightsaber when you were young?
I used to swirl like a broom handle around to pretend it was a lightsaber. So I was sort of real
Yeah,
low key
yeah,
for stuff like that. But I just became obsessed with Star Wars. Part of it
yeah.
was probably escapism, going, I'm Luke Skywalker. I want to go away and do
Right.
something because my home life sucks.
Ah,
I want Luke
right,
Skywalker. So
right,
I just
man.
became but obviously a lot of the obsession was because everything was Star Wars around. It was
Yeah,
cereals, biscuits,
yeah,
music was everywhere, and the
yeah,
posters, and just it was. I think I was trying to think of something else that was probably as big, maybe ET for merchandise, because everything was ET. But even that
yeah,
doesn't even touch the surface of how much Star Wars stuff there was
yeah,
at that
yeah.
time.
Tons, man. Lightsaber that I made was I don't know if you're familiar with golf tubes, but it's like if you have a set of golf clubs, you
Yeah.
put these tubes in and they're like semi-opaque. And so I would I can't remember where I found this, like it wasn't vellum, but it was something that my mom had that you could shine a light through and it would be blue, right? And so what did I do? I cut it out and I put it over the flashlight and then used duct tape to attach the golf tube. And then I think my sister had like a little plastic mirror or something. And so I cut that up and taped it to the end so that the light would hit that mirror and kind of bounce back and illuminate a little more evenly. And then I would just run around outside in the evening. As soon as it would get dark, man, I'd turn on my lightsaber. And I guess it was kind of, wasn't it Ewan McGregor who said that when he it was tough for him not to make the lightsaber sounds,
Yoing, yoing,
Yeah.
yoing. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but yeah, man. I mean, like I grew up with that, and then I think that I don't think it was an official Han Solo gun. I think it was just a broom handled Mauser. But again, my imagination, man, and that was Han Solo's gun. I don't know if I'd taped some stuff to it or tried to make it look more like Han Solo's blaster. But you answered one of my questions. Who did you identify with? So it was Luke.
I think it was Luke for me. I
Yeah.
think more so when Luke was in Jedi. I think in the whole black robe, and I'm like, he's cool now. In the
Yeah.
first Star Wars, he's not really that cool, is he? Like, oh god, you're annoying. So you kind of resonate more with Solo, and you go, or
Oh
Vader,
yeah,
maybe it
man.
depends on
Yeah.
your personality, but
Yeah. Yeah.
with him. But
Yeah.
as the series progressed, I'm like, I kind of like Luke more. And have you ever
Yeah.
tried to use the Force? I have. I've tried to.
Oh yeah, man. And let me tell
I'm
you,
trying it now. It's not working. Damn it.
there's periodically Michelle will humor me because I'll be like,
Oh,
reaching
it's
out
working.
for that remote, and
It's
then
working.
she'll raise it up, and I'm like, yeah, okay, it does work.
It does work.
So other than people humoring me, no, the force just, wow, what is it from Rogue One? I'm one with the force is one with me, or whatever that dude said as he
Yeah.
was blindly going into fire, man. That was the relationship between he and that dude who had the gun, and they were just, that best buddies kind of thing, man. Everybody in Rogue One. But anyway, going back to Star Wars though, I was trying to think. I never collected the big 12-inch figures. There
No.
was a friend of mine who has a few of those, and the original the first Darth Vader helmet that they came out with. I was trying to think what else. But I mean, it was when I was I guess I was in 7th grade. My girlfriend had a little brother who was also into Star Wars, and she kind of looked like Princess Leia, which may have been why we started seeing each other. But anyway, when I go over to see her brother would get on my back and I make tauntaun sounds and just run around. And so he still reminds me of that. So yeah, man, I don't think anything was as huge as Star Wars. I don't think anyone around the globe was ready for that phenomenon.
No, I mean, that's sort of big movie wise. You'd had Jaws, but
Right.
there wasn't a ton of Jaws merchandise. If I remember rightly enough, that was a very different film to
Yeah.
Star Wars. But when Star Wars came out, it was
Yeah.
everywhere. The
Yeah.
merchandise, every time. Star Wars bubble bath. I remember that. You pull the head up,
Oh,
top
yeah,
that up. Remember
man.
Darth Vader things. I wish I still had all of those
Yeah.
now. What was really
Yeah.
nice about Star Wars though in '78 and '79 and stuff, there's nothing to compare it to. Nowadays, people are like, that's not canon, that's characters. There was nothing.
Right.
We just, as kids, we went
Right.
in, we're like, oh, look, he lives on a planet with his two sons. That was it.
Right.
You didn't go, well, let me just think on the two sons. Does that make sense?
Right.
I don't think that song would make sense. There was
Yeah.
none of that. You know, Vader, bad guy. Right. Okay. I don't know why he's bad, but he's wearing black and he's got all these stormtroopers. Therefore, he's
Probably
a villain. Run.
Probably because he has asthma. I mean, he's frustrated.
Possibly. So there was all that. There was nothing
Yeah.
there was no canon as such.
Right.
And then obviously the holiday special came
Right.
out, which thankfully we never got over here, but never mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Dude,
how many
if I had known we were going on to a Star Wars tangent, I found a cell from the Ewoks animated TV show. I think it was back in '88. I can't
mid
remember.
80s, yeah.
I mean, like, I didn't even recognize what it was. And so a
Wow.
buddy of mine who used to work for Disney, and he has given me some different cells and stuff, some of projects that he's worked on. I sent him that, and his reply was, "What the hell is that?" So I did a Google image search, and it located, and led me to some website where this one lady, oh, what's her name? Anyway, she's a huge fan of Star Wars and has hundreds of these cells, man. And this is hand painted, used in the animated series.
Wow.
And so, yeah, man. So, and I was trying to get up with her just because I will mail her this. I mean, like, it's cool, but I mean, she's got a collection, man. This is just another thing, but I have no idea where it came from. I don't know, man.
85, 86. I'm slowly becoming a Star Wars expert with just doing little bits
Right.
of. I'm certainly not a Star Wars expert. I know there's a lot of people who know way more than I do, but I do know that the Ewoks was 2 seasons and 85, 86,
Wow.
I believe. They obviously got 2 movies as well. So, yeah. No, I was obsessed with Star Wars. I don't know if I'm still obsessed with Star. I really like it, but there's a lot of stuff that I've not seen yet, and I am planning on getting around to watching it. But there's a lot of movies and TV shows and stuff that aren't Star Wars that we tried to catch up on.
They almost Marvelized it. You know what I mean? As far as like, I sure would like to see I don't know, something that came in the middle of the whole, between Iron Man and Endgame. And I mean, like, even, my stepkids, where I was like, you should watch this. This is really good. Didn't watch the rest of it. I'm going to skip it. But I mean, at least Star Wars makes it a little easier. Then you've got the Star Wars stories added in, which is kind of cool. But anyway, yeah, man, it's amazing that, I mean, with I think where I was sitting, one of the last 2 podcasts that we did, the Darth Vader helmet is from the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, which it just reminded me so much of the original Darth Vader mask. There's little things that are different about it, but I mean, the red lenses, there's just a lot, man. But you go online, and you were talking about, you're not an expert, but yet you are, gaining knowledge. And some of these people that can tell you, this is what, helps them identify Vader from each movie. And because they modified different things on the helmet and the vent
and the breastplate and stuff, didn't they?
Yeah. And evidently C-3PO is the same, because I would still like to have a C-3PO, just, like a helmet, and have it electroplated gold, and just, because C-3PO, I think Han Solo was my number 1 favorite character, but then 3PO was fun too. But yeah, just to have that, I think that would be, a nice addition to it all. But with collectibles, there's one of the stormtrooper masks that I have is from the mold of the original New Hope. I mean, like
Wow.
the first Star Wars. So, and
Yeah.
it's interesting how, I don't think, I mean, like the DL-44s, they weren't thinking it was going to be a big deal. And so they had rented all, gone through an armory, rented all these things, glued all this stuff on there to make them look cool. And then they left them behind, man, over in England and came
Yeah.
back. And then it's like, wait a minute, we still have to shoot the cantina scene. So, um, it's cool that they had a different gun for that. And that, in talking to the guy, where I get a lot of my Star Wars blasters from, I mean, like he was going through, because I interviewed him on the podcast that I have yet to publish, but he is such a knowledge bank about all the weapons in Star Wars. And when Han Solo's blaster was sold, for like, I don't know, what was it, $1 million, something like that.
You paid $1 million
Supposedly
for
the
it, John?
original. Oh, no, not even close. But 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 when it sold, he zoomed in and looked at the serial number and he said, that is not the original. And so
Oh my
that's
God.
evidently still out there. Yeah, man. But can you imagine? It's like, yeah, this is the DeLorean from Back to the Future.
No, it's
it's
not.
not. How much you pay for that? Too much.
Oh no.
Yeah. But anyway, but yeah, it's interesting how everybody has a focus. You think about the R2D2 builders that are out there.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, and that's another thing. I've always wanted to have a full size R2D2.
Yeah.
And not that I have room for it, but I've always guess I could always put it up there in the living room, which is, it's funny. This is my domain, and then the living room is Michelle's.
You have it
classic artwork.
So
and
you
stuff.
lift R2's head off, and there's drinks in it.
Oh, there! I like that.
So that would work. Pass me a vodka. And come. I've met a few R2D2s. I met one in San Diego Comic-Con, which I managed to video and he beeped and said hello. I met a steampunk R2D2 in Wales a few years ago, which I also videoed another conversation with. And I was stood about 10 feet away from Kenny Baker a few years ago whilst I was talking to Michael Bean. So in the Experience of Comic-Con thing, you see Kenny Baker in the background while kind of ignoring him. He's not speaking to me, to be fair, whilst I'm talking to Michael Bean about the Abyss. So I've met some R2D2s, seen some R2D2s.
Yeah, but they are cool. And I mean, you think about all that Lucas had to do to make R2D2 animated in New Hope, and like the center leg that would come out, but it wasn't there all the time. And you did have Mr. Baker inside R2D2, and man, I mean, like now with electronics, you can have your own R2D2 that does everything and lights up and sounds amazing. And then you're going to have somebody say, well, but that's not really the way the lights were. They were made from this and that and everything. But you know what? I mean, like that's an amazing R2D2 fan to know that much.
It is. I wouldn't know that much.
Yeah. No, man. I'm just like, dude, I'm having a fan moment with R2D2.
Well, it's like people.
It's not the real one, right?
Like you've mentioned with the Vader and the 3PO, go, well, this is the different ones through the movies. I'm like, they changed. Were they different? Maybe I remember the red lenses being a little bit different. They weren't there in Empire of Jedi, but beyond that, there was a difference. Oh, yes, this light was different. Now I'm like, I didn't even notice. I was too busy just suspending my disbelief and just thinking, I want an X-Wing.
Yeah, that I really wanted the Falcon. And that way, I could fly around. I could make some spare money, hauling stuff around.
Play chess.
And then, yeah. There was, what was it? There was something that we were watching not too long ago that was Star Wars, but they had the chess thing, but they had like little action figures out instead of it being holographic. Okay. And it was just odd because I'm like, if they could pull it off back in '77, that they could pull it off now. So
I've been going through a lot of my hard drives, just mining content for Star Wars, and some of the stuff I found it's an audio recording of a Q&A panel I hosted in 2017 or 2018, where the guy who played Bosk was on it, the guy who played Greedo. It's a whole bunch of Star Wars characters.
Yeah.
It's me just interviewing, and I'm like, that was never filmed, but I turned it into a video and stuck it on this YouTube channel. And there's another one where I'm sitting down, and it was a one-to-one Q&A on a stage with the guy who designed the original Vader helmet, Brian Muir. And it was like, there was supposed to be 3 of us on this panel, and then one person backed out. So I'm like, I'm just going to sit on stage with this guy, just have a conversation. And it was one of the most interesting things that I've ever done. It was just because the guy's career was insane. And we just sat there and we chatted for 45 minutes, and now and again I let the audience chuck in a question. But I'm like, I'm here for me. It was really, really good. So I'm converting all these into video and then sticking them on the people are watching them. So it's quite
man. Well, it's historical at this point. You know, it's a part of our history. When you think about how long ago that was. And still, I mean, like to this day, if I hear the opening credit theme song, man, I'm taken back in time.
You're like, oh, is this Star Wars or Superman? Which one? Oh, yeah, no, it's Superman. Never mind. They do sound very similar.
Which sidebar, there is a new documentary on Christopher Reeve, which looks really good. Yeah,
I really want to watch that. So that's good. But I just wanted to take a trip back to a time before there was canon, because a lot of people nowadays, I suspect a lot of Star Wars fans nowadays weren't even around when the first one. I may be wrong. I'm sweepingly generalizing them, but you kind of get the impression it's just like, go back to when it was first there and the magic was there, and you go into the theater going, what is this Star Wars thing? Don't even know. And then the Star Destroyer goes over and you're like, I'm in. And then for 2 hours, just short of 2 hours, you're hooked. You're like, I don't know what C-3PO, I don't know how long a battery lasts. Why can't Stormtroopers shoot straight? Who knows? I don't know. But he didn't care because it was fun. And then we became obsessed with spending our pocket money on Star Wars cereal and bubble bath. Everything.
All the things that we probably should have kept, you know what I mean, that would probably be valuable, but yet, dude, it was a box that held cereal. I do have, like, there were bathroom cups that are little, I can't remember who made them. But, you know, I mean, they're paper and they're coated in wax so that they will hold water. And for whatever reason, it got put on the shelf. And I found it probably a decade ago at my parents' house. And I'm like, what is this? It's still in great condition, you know? But I mean, all these different cups. So, I mean, I put it back. I'll, you know, find that again. But yeah, man, I mean, like, I think the world was Star Wars crazy. And I'm glad that afforded Lucas to finish telling the trilogy. And I mean, and I enjoy the prequels too. I mean, you know, back in the day, I didn't like them as much. But I mean, like, you know, it wasn't the original, but it was still good. It was fine. And there was some discussion on YouTube where the question was asked, you know, why was, you know, the prequels, why were they panned? Why were they so heavily criticized when really they're not bad? I mean, you know.
Why do you think? Why do you think they were panned? I think I have my suspicion, which I'll say mine after you've said
I think it was just the original, the people like you and I who saw Star Wars originally and then saw Empire and then saw Jedi. It didn't matter that, you know, at the end of Jedi, it was kind of goofy with the Ewoks and then Yuk Yuk Song and the zippers in the back of their costume. You know, Jar Jar was abrasive, but yet he was just another character. He was fun. And then, you know, he was abrasive in Phantom Menace. And then in the second one, what was it, Clone War?
Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, I remember it had something to do with clones. It was 3PO who was just a complete dick. Just, you know, and then of course everybody was waiting on the darkness that would be Darth Vader's rise in you know, in the whatever the third one was. So but yeah, I think it was just different. I think it's kind of like you're used to your this one restaurant making lasagna, and that's your favorite lasagna. And then you taste somebody else's that's actually from Italy, and you're like, wow, man, this is really good. It's different. I don't know how to, to really think about it. What's your spin on?
I think there's two. I think one of them we already knew the story, so as soon as we saw Anakin, we're like, well, he becomes Vader.
Right.
So we knew inevitably where it was going to go. So that removes. Whereas when we watch Star Wars Empire Jedi, we're like, I don't really know. We'll touch upon Empire next time, but I remember the whole Luke, I'm your dad. For 3 years between Empire and Jedi, I'm like, that can't be right. Why have you not done your homework? I'm a bit concerned about why is Vader lying to Luke? What? And we didn't know what was going on. Prequels, we did. We're like, okay, there's Anakin. Well, pretty sure Qui-Gon doesn't make it because he's not in the other ones, and it's always that. And also go back to when we saw Star Wars Empire and Jedi in the theaters. Those movies changed our life to a certain extent.
They really did.
We were in 99 and the 2000s. We were older then, so movies generally didn't change our lives when we're in our 20s or whatever. They did. So we've lost that, I think, and we see that again with Force Awakens, Last Jedi, and Rise of Skywalker. They're not. One of them's a good film. The other two are like hit and miss. But again, they didn't change our lives. So I think people are trying to get back the same feel. Same with the Indiana Jones films. People are like, these last two were terrible. Well, they weren't. But when we saw Raiders, we were like 11, 12, 13, whatever age we were. And they changed our life back then. So I think we've forgotten how to be children in our heads.
I agree. And I think too, with the sequels, Star Wars wise, as well as Indiana Jones, I think, to attract the new fans, the young fans, they had to add that extra flavor in that is today's movies, which is, let's just be frenetic with the cuts. Let's just, it's a roller coaster. It'll feel like a theme ride at Disney. Oh, it will be, but I think that's, I think too, it's kind of like, and I've never done cocaine, but from what I understand from my friends who have,
you've seen Scarface.
You really, but it's like they really have not. I mean, like, they try cocaine. It's the most amazing thing. And then the next time it's less than. And I think that's another problem we have is that when we were kids and we saw Star Wars, the original trilogy, it was every 3 years. We couldn't wait. And it was new and there was no competition. And then, when the prequels came out, we were looking for that same high and it didn't quite tap it. We didn't quite get that. And then when the sequels came out, and I think again, we were like, yes, Star Wars, the opening credits, and our hopes were high, and it just kind of got smashed.
Force Awakens, I was in for. I remember seeing Force Awakens, and I'm like, oh my god, this is the Falcon. I was as giddy as I was when in '78 when I first saw Star Wars. Last Jedi, I'm like, it's kind of cool, but it's a bit disjointed. And then because we become polluted with the off-screen, they've changed the director, they're doing this, but I don't want to know any of that. I want to be the kid that goes into Star Wars in '78 going, I don't even know what I'm about to see. Please be good. And it was amazing.
Yeah.
So that's my thoughts. But I wanted to take a revisit back to the early times and just sort of reignite some magic or whatever. I think your dog wants to go out, I suspect, or it's choked on a blanket, one of the two.
Michelle, no, I removed that, which we won't talk about that again. It's kind of like Bruno. We won't be talking about that blanket when Michelle comes in because she'll wash it immediately. Dog spit, man. But no, it's Michelle came in and set something down on the table and then it hit the floor. So now Lily is on high alert. So but yeah, man, I enjoy hanging out with you anyway. But man, talking Star Wars. Any aspect of my collection that you would like to see more of and we discuss and stuff, man, I'd be glad to pull it out. I mean, like some of it is in boxes, but
next time we're going to do this little segment on Empire. So maybe bring along something Empire related, and then the following one we'll do something about Jedi and whatnot. We'll do the classic trilogy.
Okay, that sounds awesome, man. I look forward to it.
Fantastic. What have you got planned for the rest of your day? Anything exciting or?
I don't know. Maybe we'll watch Ordinary Angels with dinner. I'm not
Really
sure.
good.
So
Just short of 2 hours. It's like an hour and 55. So it's
yeah, that's not bad,
good.
man. Yeah.
Good.
So, but that is definitely at least sometime this week, if not tonight. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, man, just dinner and visiting with Michelle, seeing how her day was and how her commute was and stuff. So, yeah, man. What about you?
Not much. It's
since it's
20 to 11
yeah,
UK time.
yeah, man.
So I'm going to wind down for 20 minutes and then probably go to sleep about half 11 or whatever. And then I'm up out and off down to a doctor's appointment tomorrow so they could take my blood. Amazing.
Don't you wish it was as easy as in episode 1 where Qui-Gon says, "Oh, hey, let me see your arm," and then he's like, "Oh, metachlorians." I mean, like, it was instant data in the little device. So,
I'm hoping to go down tomorrow and they go, actually, your results have come back, or maybe like a couple of days, and I do have metachlorians. Yeah.
Yes, it would, man.
All right. Well, thank you for indulging me in a little Star Wars chat as well.
Oh, yeah, man. My pleasure. And, man, look forward to the next time.
So we are going to delve back into both our childhood again. So it's a perfect segue for something man. There, John. So last time we chatted, we spoke about what it was like watching Star Wars back in 77 or 78 for me, and basically growing up with what would become A New Hope. We're going to tackle Empire Strikes Back in this segment, which I did say we were going to do. So thankfully, the film came out in 1980 for both our countries. So there was no big gap this time. Obviously, Lucas is like, I'm going to make some money here. Let's all bring it out in May 1980. So what are your memories of living around the time when The Empire Strikes Back came out? My first question is, because I can't remember the answer. I really can't. To me, I remember Empire coming out and that was it. I don't remember the run-up to Empire. I don't remember there's a sequel to Star Wars coming out next year or the year. I don't remember any of that.
Yeah.
It just sort of, it was there. Do you have any memories of it?
I think in one of the sci-fi magazines, they had a shot of Darth Vader in his ball of life or whatever, and it showed the back of his head. So it was like, wow, man. And that was the only glimpse. But that was the main thing that kind of caught my attention. And I remember it was a good friend of mine, Mike Scarborough. Not that anybody knows who this is, but he and I were very tight and from kindergarten all the way through high school and beyond. And so it was his birthday. His dad rounded up a bunch of us rowdy kids. They had a huge conversion van. It would probably, look weird nowadays, since those kinds of vans have such bad reputations. But back in the day, man, it was awesome. And we drove over, or we were driven to Concord, North Carolina, to the mall and went in, and that was where we saw the movie. But I can still remember it wasn't like burned into my psyche like going to see Star Wars, where I was just like, there's just magic, there's electricity in the air. But we were so excited to go in there, and dude, I mean, from the opening crawl, the 20th Century Fox into the fanfare and all that, dude, we were glued. And then I remember talking about it all the way home and then for weeks, because that's what we did. There was no let's look it up online and see who liked what, does this suck or whatever, man. It was just, and it was Star Wars, so I think everybody knew not to be sacrilegious around us and say any disparaging comments.
Not that I think there were any disparaging comments. I mean, nowadays everybody's like, Empire's the best one. To me, Jedi is my favorite one. But people, Empire is held up as one of the better sequels to a really good original film. I don't remember anybody going, that sucked. But again, like you said, there was no internet. There was no... You had newspapers which wrote proper reviews. There was no like, this film sucks, Darth Vader claims he's Luke's dad, and all that sort of stuff. There was none of that. It was all very serious, I think. But I have more accurate memories of watching Empire than I did Star Wars, because I was 6 or 7 years old when I saw Star Wars, so I don't really remember that far back. But I was 9 when I watched Empire, and those were my cinema years, of sort of 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and so on. I remember watching it a few times in the cinema. I remember being blown away by just the crawl and not knowing what you're going to see. Now we know because we see trailers and stuff like, oh, this happens, blah, blah, blah. Just going in, not having a clue.
Ultron, right?
How can they do a follow-up to Star Wars? It all finished and they got the medals and I'm pretty sure Vader's alive because his ship went spinny off into the thing. And you're like, okay, so he's not dead, but is he going to come back? And it was just this whole sense of wonder about what am I going to see? And it was an amazing time watching it.
Yeah, 100%, man. I think it's almost like if you are only fed every other day and you just get that big fat juicy hamburger, it doesn't matter. You're not as picky about what you're going to eat. You just enjoy it. And I think certainly Empire was amazing, but I think too, man, we were waiting 3.5 years to get it. And then there was another 3.5 years to get Jedi. And yeah, man, it was that. And then you think about the ending. I don't think there was a cliffhanger in any movie I'd ever seen before. No. And so, wait a minute, this is where they're ending? Wait a minute, what's going to happen to Han? What? Lando and Chewie are going out? What? Luke's got a new hand? I don't understand. What's
Han's in carbonite and Vader's lied to Luke. There's no way he can be his dad because it's got to be Ben Kenobi that's Luke's dad. That's what I think. And there was none of this, screw the shit, I'm out of here. Nobody really got mad. It was just like, when are we getting another one? Are we getting another one? What's going on? But there was no internet to check this stuff on. You're like, are we getting more? It was the most painful 3 years between Empire and Jedi as a child could have. Short of being locked in a cellar and not fed for 3 years, I think. Maybe, probably beats it. Hey, look, son, I've got you a new pager from Europe. Yay, thanks. Right. That would be a bad idea. And toy-wise and merchandising, I think it had kicked in really big from Empire. It was couldn't escape the merchandising. What Star Wars merch did you have around the time of Empire?
Oh man, I don't remember when the full-size Millennium Falcon came out, but that's what I wanted consistently every Christmas, and I never got it. But I got a bunch of the figures and stuff. I mean, you've got the bounty hunters, and that was one of the things that I meant to do was to bring because I've got the Darth Vader case from the 70s, and that's got all my old figures in it. So yeah, I meant to bring that up. But I was trying to think. I still don't think we had lightsabers at that point. I don't remember, but I remember
there were cheap and nasty lightsabers, but that might have been Return of the Jedi. The sort of you hit them and then boink, they bent. Oh, right. That sort of thing. I never had one, but I saw one, and I'm like, no, that wouldn't last 5 minutes with me.
Yeah, well, that, and then I remember. Now this is jumping around as I often do, but it's like when Phantom Menace came out, I didn't want to pay for the Darth Maul lightsaber, the legit one by Kenner. So I got an off-brand one, and then I had I can't remember if it's Qui-Gon or Obi-Wan, but anyway, the nice one from Kenner, which is just better plastic. And a friend of mine came over, and he had seen me, like lightsaber dueling with the kids, and he said, "I want to take you on." So I said, "Well, which lightsaber do you want?" "I'll take Darth Maul's," thinking he was going to be a true badass. And anyway, I whacked him a few times, and then I came straight down for his face, thinking that he would block it.
He didn't.
The blade broke, and I smacked him in the face, and he said that was enough.
I quit. Darth Maul took his ball home and didn't play for the rest of the afternoon.
That's it, man. That's it. So going back to Empire, what did you think when Darth Vader said, "We can rule the galaxy as father and son"?
I thought the whole Vader speech to Luke, I'm like, you're lying. It's not. No, you're not the dad. I genuinely thought this is going to be big.
Genuinely like Luke.
Yeah,
No!
I like no, that can't be right, because and your brain goes back to what Ben says. Oh, you killed your dad. And I'm like, why? Ben wouldn't lie, and it just I needed therapy, I think, after that, because it's like for 3 years until Jedi came out, you were like, why have you not done your homework? Oh, I'm trying to sort this old Ben Kenobi Darth Vader thing out. I can't work it out. I genuinely thought, no, that can't be.
Yeah,
that can't be true.
At that point, there was such a trust in George Lucas as a storyteller. We knew things would be right. I mean, like, we knew we were going to get an explanation in Jedi. And so versus now, I don't know. It's that other shoe to drop, whatever that saying is.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
With a lot of TV shows and movies where it's like, oh yeah, this is gonna be a franchise, and you're just like going, man, I don't know that you're gonna be able to pull this ship back up and fly back into space.
Like Ahsoka, I'm really hoping there'll be season 2, but I don't know if there's going to be. Well, hopefully there is, but I didn't really pay too much. There is. But with Empire, it's like I really do like Empire. I think for me, my least favorite part of Empire is the Dagobah stuff, because it's like the first part I can appreciate it, but it's like I don't really enjoy rewatching all that stuff, because you've got the Hoth battle, which is amazing. Then you've got Dagobah, and you're like, okay, it slows it all down. You're like, I know all this dialogue, and it's fine and whatever. And Yoda's not one of my favorite characters. And then it gets to Bespin, and you're like, we're up and running again. So it just seems to, valley and mountain type thing.
Well, what did you think when Luke went into the tree or underground or whatever and fought Vader, and under the mask was Luke?
Yeah, it didn't make any sense to me as a kid.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? That doesn't. No, I don't even know. So I've got one of those brains where it's like, if I can't work out the answer to that, I'm just forget it. I'm not interested. I'll move on. Let me think about AT-ATs and Scout Walkers and stuff again.
Yeah.
But no, that never made. And then as an adult, you go, okay, now I get it. It's only when you're in your 20s or 30s you go, right. Now I understand that thing in that PG U certificate maybe. Now I get it. What about yourself? What did you think when you first saw it?
I thought I blinked and missed something important. I really didn't comprehend when I was, that age. And that was certainly a good talking point when we got back to the van and we were headed home. Although I think we went out to Pizza Hut afterwards. So I think that was probably a good time to, eat and share and all that fun stuff. But yeah, I mean, you look at, and all the things that we didn't know about the set, where there was really a bunch of water and it was stagnating and it was, what they went through for us, man. And Frank Oz as Yoda. What is that? There's a video. Oh, what is it? It has something to do with throwing rocks at gulls or something. But anyway, it's making fun of the whole Yoda thing. I'm sure you've seen it. But anyway, Yoda was certainly not my favorite. The fact that he looked like a puppet, it just, but whatever, man.
It's like I can appreciate Yoda and I appreciate everything that went into the Dagobah filming, but I'm like, kind of like my least favorite. Like that would be a moment you go, I'll just check my emails while that's on, because I've seen it a lot of times. Obviously, as a kid, you were like, I'm transfixed. Who is this weird character? Yes, it looks like a Muppet, because I'm still watching the Muppet Show, because that was on the TV at the time.
Right.
But yeah, I did, and I saw Empire a few times, I think, in the cinema. I was doing some research, because and I don't know how your brain is when you think back to when you watch things and how often you watched them and when you bought them on videotape and stuff. But it kind of blew my mind a bit. So and I've written these down, and it's one of these, I'm looking at the numbers and I'm like, the internet tells me this is true. But is it? It messes with my brain. So Star Wars came out in 1977.
Right.
It was, where have I got it? It didn't come out on videotape until 1982.
Wow.
Think
That's
if
not
I've
some.
got that right. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, that
apparently.
sounds about right, man, because it took forever.
And
And I mean, like, I don't know that VHS was that big back in the day.
no,
Because I mean, that was.
VHS was early 80s to sort of, a couple of years after that
Mm,
when it really took off. But
yeah.
your brain thinks, well, Star Wars came out in 77. This is the part that just messes with my brain. And you go,
Yeah.
I remember seeing it at cinema, and I know I've seen it lots and lots of times before DVD and before the
Yeah.
special editions and stuff. You're like, well,
Right.
where did I watch it?
Yeah.
Was it on a TV broadcast? But apparently, it wasn't on TV until like 1985 or something stupid, or 80.
Wow.
It might be 82 actually. I'd written these
Yeah.
things down, and it's just like, where did I watch this film so many times? It was re-released in 1982 with Empire, so there was a double bill,
Oh,
which
wow,
I
man.
did
That would have
see.
been good.
I
I
remember
don't think
seeing
I
that.
saw that. Yeah.
And that was worldwide, so you could go watch some. Like, okay, so I probably saw it in 77, 78.
Yeah.
Then probably a couple of times. Then I saw the double bill in 1982, and then they did a triple release probably around about 84 or something,
Mm,
83, 84 with all three of them. And I remember
yeah.
seeing that twice in the cinema in the same day. So all three
Wow.
twice, and I
Yeah.
watched all of those. But it's
Yeah.
like Return of the Jedi didn't come out on VHS until 1986. Empire didn't come out till 1985. So
Yeah.
all these people bitching and moaning, oh, why is Deadpool not on video on demand yet? Screw you. We had to wait like 5 years for the Empire Strikes Back to
Right.
hit videotape. And
Oh,
it
yeah.
wasn't on TV until after that.
Right. Well, there was such a process where it was in the movie theater, and then what was it like? Maybe 9 months later, it would be on HBO if you had it,
Yeah, which we
and
didn't over
then
here in the UK. Yeah.
yeah, and then it was months after that, then it could get a VHS release because they
Yeah.
wanted to make as much money as possible. And now everything is just digital. I mean, like, and whatever you want to see as I mean, like, look at Borderlands. I mean, that was in the theater,
Yeah.
and then 1 week later, boom, I could watch it down in my own theater. So
That's,
yeah, man.
it blows my mind. But I was looking at all those dates when like Star Wars and Empire and stuff came out on VHS. I remember buying them or
Yeah,
renting them, and I'm
yeah,
thinking those numbers can't be right because I'm sure I would
yeah.
have seen it more. But it's just, we're obviously going back in our brains like 40 years or whatever, so it's a little bit tricky.
Right.
But
Yeah.
yeah, kind of
And then
crazy.
there's the whole Mandela effect. I mean, so really,
Yeah. Yeah, so I have no definitive answer as to how I think I've watched it more times in those
Yeah,
early days than I did. But I remember I watched the double bills, I watched the triple bills. I would have seen
yeah,
Empire a few times at the
yeah,
cinema because the local theater that I had was a 3-screen thing, and Empire would have been on for months, and I would
yeah,
have gone back like once every couple of weeks, for example,
yeah.
to watch it. But I remember getting really excited because my brother had a lot of the figures, so therefore when he wasn't in the house, I had a lot of the figures. And it's like in the wintertime with the snow outside, that was Hoth.
Oh wow,
And
man.
in the
Yeah.
springtime and the autumn and the fall, as you call it over there, you go, well,
Right.
that would become Endor.
Right.
And there was like a building site near my house
Yeah.
that was the sand, that was Tatooine. And so it
Yeah.
was just like you go outside with these figures and you just make up your own
Yep.
little stories and just reenact the
Yeah.
things that you've seen on screen and stuff.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I
that.
always wanted an AT-AT, and I eventually
Yeah.
got one as a fully grown adult. But that
Yeah.
was always something that I wanted on my deck, a bit like you with the Conan sword.
Right. Because yeah, the AT-AT I have was a model kit, and it was weird how all these things were in a box that somehow came back into my possession, and it was probably when we moved into this house, and then I put it all up into the attic, and then I'm up there looking through, like, well, where's something that I deemed important, and I open this thing, and there's all my old model kits, and including the AT-AT, and he's a little imperfect. There are a couple things that broke off, but he
Yeah,
still looks good, and he's on the shelf with a bunch of other stuff surrounding him. So
yeah,
but yeah, man. But going back to your question, why do we think we've watched it so many times, if you had the soundtrack like I did,
Did
then
yeah
every time I heard it, man, I was watching the movie again. And so I
yeah.
think that further kind of helps us to believe that we saw it, you know, a dozen times before it hit VHS.
I wish I had a record of how many times I saw it at the cinema and re-releases, because it's
Hmm.
when I was looking up the numbers of when it was on TV and when it came out on home release, it's like, that doesn't make any sense. It just took me right back to he can't be Luke's dad. This is mental. So yeah, it did sort of throw me a bit, but it probably is
Yeah.
a certain Mandela effect. But listening to the soundtrack, and then obviously, I
Yeah.
think also as a kid, you would watch a film once and that would be burned into your brain.
Oh yeah. Well,
Whereas
especially
nowadays, you're like, what
something
did I watch
like
last
Star
night? I
Wars.
can't remember.
Right. Well, because it is kind of like a fast food meal, too many
Yeah.
of them. But then you have something that is, you know, steak and potatoes with chicken, and you're just like, oh my gosh, I feel like a Viking king. So, yeah, it really leaves a mark, and I think Star Wars is, you know, I it was there's a documentary about Planet of the Apes, and I had no idea that there was such a following of Planet of the Apes that they would have cosplay and all this stuff. And but I mean, those people are older than you and I are, because I think Planet of the Apes were in the
60s.
what was it, mid
Yeah,
'60s? Yeah.
60s. Yeah.
And so Star Wars for us was Planet of the Apes for them, and
Yeah.
it just, you know, anyway, man. But it's interesting how I guess every generation up to a certain point had that movie, that series or whatever, that just really meant something to them. And I wonder if you know, these current generations have that, because there's so much entertainment, man.
I think maybe Stranger Things
Yeah.
is possibly a thing, because I remember when the last season finished and you would go online and I'd stumble into these Facebook groups. People
Yeah.
were obsessed by it. Like, God,
Yeah.
when's the next season? And I like Stranger Things. I'm like, yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, I'll watch the next one when it comes out. But I'm not like, how many days till the new season? I'm not one
Right.
of those. But there are
Yeah.
people that are like that. They're like, oh, this is the
Yeah.
best thing I've ever seen. And you look at it and you're like, it's not. But for them, it is.
Yeah.
I'm sure our parents, when we were like obsessed with Star Wars, were like, come on, it ain't no On the Waterfront or East of
Right.
Eden or Rebel Without a
Right.
Cause. Give me a break.
Yeah.
Where's the
Yeah.
realism?
Bridge over River Kwai. Come
Yeah,
on,
exactly.
that's the Alec Guinness that we knew. Yeah.
But yeah, I keep thinking about the ending of Empire Strikes Back. I can't remember what my thoughts were. I don't think I was like, what? This is the terrible ending. I just remember being so excited. I'm like,
Oh
oh,
yeah.
how long are we going to wait to find out what happened? And I wasn't angry
Yeah.
about it. I'm like, I want to watch some more. I want some more stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think, you know, when I saw Star Wars the second time in the movie theater, and this was up with my dad's parents, up in Williamsburg, Virginia, and it was a different crowd, man. I mean, like, it was a good crowd the first night, but this crowd would applaud, and they were so excited. And so when, you know, when everybody was getting the medals, then everybody in the whole audience stood up and applauded like it was theater, man. And
Yeah.
so, but I mean, we knew that that was the ending. And I think Empire had such a surprise ending where it's just like, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Until next time. That I think that was my takeaway, was I was so enjoying it and I didn't want it to end. I was satisfied with New Hope because it came to a conclusion. But this one just said, Band-Aid off. Till next time, you know.
But it also, I mean, even though it's until next time ending, I still feel that the ending kind of worked. If they never made another one, I would still be okay with that. I think I'd be like, I'd like to have found out whether they got Han back and all this sort of stuff. But if that's so, I remember being sort of calmly, rather than, what? This is an outrage. Give me my money back. It's half a movie, for God's sake. It felt to me like it was closure, even though it was ramping into something that we would then have to wait 3 years for, and we would be tortured children until we saw Revenge of the Jedi, as it was going to be called.
Which was very un-Jedi like, right?
Yeah. But I remember seeing the posters for Revenge of the Jedi. You do still see them now and again. You could look online for them, and it's not too different from the the Return of the Jedi one, but it was
Yeah.
a few years until we would get that conclusion to the classic trilogy. So
Yeah.
So the video that I did last time where we talked about Star Wars, I put that on the Star Wars YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And then it did okay. People were watching
Millions
it.
of
That's
likes.
not doing too bad. But then there's a Star Wars group on Facebook, which is the Star Wars phenomenon in Britain. And it's a pretty populated Facebook group, and it deals obviously with Star Wars phenomenon in Britain, but only before 2005. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to share the last video we did, and the numbers went. Bing. So people in that group have been watching. So I mentioned last week that we're going to be doing Empire. So a shout out to everybody in that group who actually watched our last conversation. Hopefully you watched this one, otherwise you're not getting a shout out because you didn't hear us say it.
Right. You know what's funny, man? It's like I never check my IMDb rating. I just don't care these days. But I checked it the other day because I was checking on this other this buddy of mine was asking me if I'd ever heard of this one movie that they were planning on making, blah blah blah. So anyway, man, my IMDb is I mean, for me doing nothing and promoting nothing, it's pretty high, man.
This is not nothing, impressed. John. This is not nothing.
Oh, that is true.
This is me doing my publicist thing.
That is, and it works.
I'll take that credit.
But yeah, man. So that was, I immediately, Michelle said, well, it's probably you and Stuart. And I'm like, you know what? That's a good point. Probably. Yeah.
Probably. I won't take the credit, but it probably is.
Yeah.
Yes, it probably is. But yeah, so the group that are watching this video, it's quite. This is only within the past couple of days I shared it in there. I'm like, and then I've just seen the numbers ramp up. So I'm like, that'll do. So
with me being a Yank, would they let me join the group?
Yeah.
Or is it in English?
No, because you and I are talking about.
I got you. But
you know, dude, and I'm obviously I've got the British side covered. We're getting Americans, so they can. Yeah. You know, they can't chop a podcast up and just have my voice in there and cut you out. That's too much editing. But it's quite an interesting group. So it's everybody just sharing like cereal boxes from the 70s and all. It's like, wow, all this weird nostalgia.
Oh, wow, man. That is very awesome. Yeah.
So they will be listening to us talking about The Empire Strikes Back within the next day or two. So thank you to them as well.
Nice. Hey, so you'd asked me what I bought after Empire. What figures or whatever. So there was certainly a lot of Bespin figures and Hoth and so there was more to collect. But what did you get?
I had both the Bespin security guards, so black guard, white guard. I ended up with Lobot, but nobody really liked Lobot. They're like, I don't know why. I don't know why they like Lobot. Didn't really bother with the Yoda, because you looked at the Yoda one, you're like, I could get this for a couple of dollars or whatever, or I could get this one. I'm going for that one because it's bigger. I had a lot of the Hoth stuff, so like the Rebel Commander with the mustache and I did have a Tauntaun. I was thinking about the Tauntaun earlier, and I think I mentioned it on one of the unboxing an unboxing video I did. I'm not a fan of the Tauntauns because there was a slit down the middle where you could put the figure in. You can only get the feet in, to be fair.
Right.
But the guy's still going to freeze to death. And then if you had it for a while, the legs became loose, so you'd stand it up and it just go like that. You're like, it's just like a dead Tauntaun. You know, I don't want a dead Tauntaun.
You don't want a dead Tauntaun unless you have that slit underneath you can put Luke in, right?
And it didn't work. You couldn't fit the whole figure in there. So I had a lot of the figures. I think years later I ended up getting a snow speeder, which is still one of the coolest vehicles.
Yeah.
Very cool vehicle. And I had the Han Solo in the blue jacket. His Hoth gear. Had that. Princess Leia. So I had a lot of, around that time, it was like, you didn't struggle to find the figures.
Yeah.
So what about yourself?
So man, again, I had, for whatever reason, my sister wanted to get a Tauntaun as well. So I've got two Tauntauns.
Really?
And I mean, it was fun, man. So yeah, Tauntauns, certainly I'm probably forgetting some of the figures. I remember I had Luke and Han in their Bespin gear. I did have Yoda, but I think that was the Yoda with the plasticky little thing that just,
Okay. Yeah.
versus the one that actually had like a pullover kind of thing. What else,
Did
man?
you have
But I
some of the
mean, that
bounty
was,
hunter side of Dengar?
yep. I had
Which years
Boss.
later I would
Yeah,
sit on stage with the guy who played Dengar in Q&A,
yeah,
interview him. So I'm like, that's kind of really, that's me geeking
yeah.
out as an adult. Like a few years ago, I'm like, I got to chat with
Yep,
Dengar and Greedo, which was just
yep,
crazy.
yeah. I think I
Zuckuss,
had, yeah,
Forlom, I think
yep,
was one of the bounty hunters. Boba Fett,
yeah,
obviously.
yeah, yeah. Just him standing around. I don't think he had any dialogue at all. I think he just nodded. No, I think he
No, he
did
did.
speak
Yeah,
at the end. Yeah,
he did.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
he spoke a little bit.
yeah. But yeah, I had a handful of those and trying to think. I picked up some more stormtroopers and
Did you have a
I was
snowtrooper?
fortunate. I did, man. Yeah. That not my favorite stormtrooper though. I think the biker scouts are my
Yeah,
favorite. I love
yeah, I
the
like the biker
traditional
scouts.
helmet, but biker scout, man. And the Kenner the Black series is coming out and with their inversion. Maybe it's out now. And I don't remember the mask flipping up. I don't think we ever saw that. And but that's the way they built their mask.
No, the only time I think with the biker scouts, which obviously is Jedi, not Empire, but it's like when they all capture all the Imperials, and you
Mhm.
see somebody like under
Right.
gun, and they've got the
Yeah.
biker scout thing on, but they've no helmet. I
Oh,
don't think you actually see it.
they
It's been
probably
a while
butchered
since
it.
I've seen Jedi.
Yeah.
To be fair, I need to revisit that. I probably will
Yeah.
before we
Yeah.
resume for the next. But we did Star Wars,
Yes.
we did Empire, so we do need to
Yep.
close it out with Jedi, I think.
Yes.
I'm pondering. I don't know what your thoughts on it. I don't want to do all the Star Wars films because there's like 12 of them. You go, what was it
Oh
like
yeah, man.
when you watch Solo? You're like, oh, I watched it like 2 years ago. It's fine. Remember it well. It's fine. I liked it.
But when you want to do the Phantom
I
Menace,
was
then
thinking that the Phantom
I am
Menace.
dude, I'm down with the prequels too, because
Okay.
that was to my kids, that was their Star Wars, kind of like for me and you, it was the original trilogy.
Yeah.
And so I mean, like they had already seen the original trilogy in the order that they were released, and
Yeah.
then they watched the prequels, and so yeah, man. I mean, like
Okay.
that'd be fun to talk about too. But yeah, but and I keep I mean, like I keep thinking Revenge of the Nerds, but
Yeah.
it's Return of the Jedi.
Well,
So
it was Revenge of the Jedi,
yeah,
which
yeah,
I remember.
yep.
People, and it
Well,
was
you
never
sent
called
me
that.
the
It's like it was called
yeah,
that. It was called. Do you know it
dude.
was called that up until like 6 months before the film came out?
Yeah,
Because I had to Google it. I Googled it last night. I'm like, when
yeah,
did they change the name? I knew they did, and I
yeah,
remember seeing the posters up, and there was
yeah,
loads of bootleg T-shirts and all that sort of stuff.
yeah.
And then it was like, oh no, it's now called Return of the Jedi because Jedi's would never do revenge. And you're like,
Right.
I'm not
Yeah.
sure if that's why you changed the name. I think you changed the name to sort of cut the legs off all the bootleggers. It wouldn't surprise me if
That's
that was the reason.
yep.
But there
Because
was a
now it's
teaser trailer.
instantaneous. Yeah.
Yeah, but there was a teaser trailer that came out in December 1982, and that had Revenge of the Jedi on it.
Really?
And the film itself came out in May 1983, so it was only 6 months.
Wow, man. Yeah. And that took a lot of effort back then. Because now, going back to our conversation about digital, like physical media versus digital media. And now, man, you can make changes up to the point it's digitally released.
Yeah.
And you can then change the artwork. And then, of course, Netflix can have 15 thumbnails that mislead you about what to watch.
Yeah, oh, look, Bryan Cranston's in it. No, he's not. It's Japanese.
That's it.
People watching that part on the Star Wars channel are going to be like, "Whoa, what the hell is Bryan Cranston going to do with this?" But
really.
Check out the full
This guy
podcast.
must be from Waxing Cinematic. Yeah,
I may link to the From Page to Screen YouTube channel on the end of the Star Wars one, so people can just jump over there.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, Jedi. So we're going back to 83, 82. So we'd watched Empire.
Yeah. Right.
I remember coming out of Empire going, "Are we getting another one?"
Yeah.
when are we getting another one? And there was no internet. You couldn't check. You couldn't find out when you were getting another one.
Yeah.
But they obviously quickly put it into production because of the sheer amount of money it was making. Yeah. But I can't remember the first time I heard about Revenge of the Jedi was going to be a thing. Have you got any memories on that? Or it just sort of popped up and you're like, oh.
Yeah. I mean, like, so going back to Empire, we were left with, I don't think we knew that there was another, you know what I mean? But we didn't know who that was. We didn't know that Luke and Leia were siblings.
No, because they had a nice big smooch, didn't they? Which was nice.
Jake
for a brother
and
and sister.
I remember that. Yeah, Jake and I remember that differently. I just remember like a little peck, and Jake was like, "Oh no, man, there were tongues." And I'm like,
"No, I think it was maybe like a 2 second," and then Luke does that, doesn't he? He's like,
"Right, oh yeah,"
and then Luke's at hard, and he's like, "It's more that that's disturbing than the actual kiss or whatever."
Right, but I mean, I guess the midichlorians didn't let him know. But Return of the Jedi, man. I don't remember when I heard about it. And the only place to see trailers back in the day were in the movie theater. So if there weren't movies leading up to that, then how did we even know? I mean, like, I don't remember seeing any. There was so much buzz with the first two movies. Shh, Lily. Sorry, we have a Lily. She thinks she hears something, but there's nothing. So
something's in the force. Like 1,000 puppies just cried out in anguish.
That's right. So anyway, as she runs around the house and barks, I was trying to think what the like my first impressions or memory. I mean, like everything else, I was so looking forward to going and seeing it, and I was looking forward to this. But yeah, I it was just kind of like, oh, by the way, Lucas did another film. What do you think? Kind of thing.
Well, I mean, go back to the 80s or so. We did Empire in 1980. Then the world got took over by Raiders of the Lost Ark in 1981.
Right,
and that would have been in cinema for months.
Did you find that insulting on any level, that it's just like, wait a minute, Spielberg is taking George Lucas's actor? What in the world? Because I don't remember Harrison Ford before Star Wars. I know he was in American Graffiti, which I still admittedly have not seen.
Oh, it's it's in my top 100. It is a really, really good film. Yeah, so I would watch that.
But it was funny when that came out, and I was just like, I don't know. My brain, for some reason, was just like, I thought he was with Lucas. Anyway.
Well, he was in Apocalypse Now as well, was Harrison. He had a small role in Apocalypse Now.
Yeah, I didn't see that until much later. Yeah.
But yeah, 81, you had Raiders. 82, obviously, E.T.
Yeah.
Should have been John Carpenter's The Thing, but, that didn't happen. But everything was E.T. 82, 83, whatever, was Rocky. And so there were a lot of films coming out. And then bang, we get this Return of the Jedi. I think the first I saw of it was probably some still pictures in like Starlog or Starburst or something like that in a magazine.
Right.
And then the toys. I remember the Kenner toys, the figures were out. And on the back, so it would show you all the figures that you could get from the Jedi range that was coming up, but they'd blacked out the Ewoks, so it looked like, if you were to take a lighter and burn out like a picture, they were like that. You're like, what the hell? You could see the name of it is like Wicket or whatever it was, but you couldn't see what the Ewok looked like because they were protecting it for the film. So I think those were my early things, and then obviously the teaser posters, which I did see Revenge of the Jedi ones. Right. Which then became Return of the Jedi one. But my God, I was so excited to watch.
Yeah.
Just to watch the conclusion. Because it drove me insane about, did Vader, what, father? No, that can't happen. I was a little bit too obsessed with that problem when I was 12. So I should have been bothering about other stuff. But I'm like, no, I need to know the thing.
Right.
And I was there on opening night, which we got it in June. 83, so we got it, I think, like 6-7 days after the US got it. So thankfully, it wasn't too much wait. But
the so what was your first impression of the Ewoks?
I didn't mind the Ewoks. I've never had an issue with the Ewoks because to me, people go, "Oh, teddy bears overthrowing the Empire." That never happened. I'm like, no, it's the
But
same
it
as
did.
Rocky IV.
Right.
Drago using all his technology in his nice posh
Yeah.
gym. Rocky is running up hills and pulling up rocks. It's like it's the arrogance of using technology. Oh, we don't have to worry about the Ewoks. We've got scout walkers. Well, you kind of do have to worry about Ewoks because they can string logs together that will squish you. So I never had an issue with the Ewoks. Never. I have an issue with the blinking Ewoks in the special editions. I'm not a huge fan of the tinkering.
Well, that and the zipper removal, you know.
Yeah, it's like just leave it in there. It's you know, I like watching it as a 1983 film, not as something that's got the year 2000s special effects and stuff in it. But what about you? Were you an Ewok hater? You didn't mind them?
Dude, I was 100% sold on Star Wars, so they could have looked far worse, and I would have said, yes, Ewoks. Speeder bikes, man, those were very, very fun. And the biker scouts, man, those were probably some of my favorite helmets, which I'm not going to flip the camera around, but I did like during that big Amazon sale, like, well, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, they had those for like $50 less than they normally run for. So that's on my wall now, man.
This should be on your YouTube channel. You see?
I know, really, man. And unboxing, right?
Yeah. But with the speeder bikes, though, it's like whenever you're on an actual bike, at least you're like, this is a speeder bike. I was. I'm just like, I was totally bought into the whole Star Wars world. Broom handles for lightsabers and everything. Amazing.
Yep. And the seeing the behind the scenes stuff of how they, you know, walking through the forest that was to be indoor, walking through the forest with a Steadicam, and then having to put everything else in there, put it all together. Man, it's just, I mean, like, that was awesome. And it was exciting, man. And I guess in a way that was like the pod racing for my kids in episode 1. It was just exciting and all these close, you know, almost colliding with trees and all that stuff, man. It was fun, man. And you think about how many times we have seen that spoofed. I mean, we've seen Neo's bullet time in so many different movies, but even what was it? Hundreds of Beavers or whatever that ridiculous even that has a speeder bike sequence that is just like, yes, we're nerds. Yes, we love Star Wars. So it felt overall, I think the movie felt a little more relaxed, you know, like Han was more comfortable being himself, which, I mean, as a character, he had grown. And Leia was even more headstrong and confident. And, you know, I mean, like, Luke, you know, was trying to save his dad. I mean, there was a lot of good points in there. I don't know that I remember as many details about that movie as I do the original Star Wars or even Empire. It's interesting. Yeah. I mean, like, thinking about it, you know, and there was so many cool things, you know, from, you know, his battle with his dad. That was cool.
It has one of the best shots in the Star Wars, all of them, where the John Williams music kicks in and they're panning from left to right, and it's just after Luke's like, no, and that shot, I love that shot. It is perfect.
And it was really good writing in the way that, you know, they were trying to bait Luke into, you know, giving into the dark side. He had become a much more powerful Jedi. Yeah. And but it's like, all right, so what about your sister? Yeah, you know, and it was, and then
it worked.
Strike me down. You know, I mean, it was some cool stuff, man.
A lot of my favorite moments from the Star Wars trilogy, or not just the trilogy, but the whole thing of Star Wars, a lot of them are in Jedi. With the opening when Shuttle Tidarium pulls in, and that whole sea of stormtroopers, like that is a cool opening to a film. Wow, they've learned a lot since they were making Empire, and Star Wars and stuff. Obviously, Star Wars had become New Hope by that time, but
and I think part of the magic in the original trilogy is there was no CG. Now, granted, when he did the reissue or whatever, that's a different story. But I mean, the fact that they had to figure out how to pull all these shots off, how to take us to these different lands. And so that always gave me something to think about. And same thing with Battlestar Galactica, the original series. There was no CG, man. I think that's another bit of movie magic that we've lost over the years, in that, it's CG. Whatever, man. Hey, Dune, man, it's really cool. Yeah, I mean, he's running through the desert, which is not real. And then you've got these big worms that aren't real. They're not practical. And so there's this discount that, and I think Lucas was still trying to prove himself. Industrial Light and Magic certainly was. Yeah, man. And Skywalker sound, I can't remember when that became a thing, but yeah, man. Yeah.
But there's one shot there's a lot of shots, but there's one shot in Jedi where it's just a sea of ships in that Death Star battle. And it's probably only 3-4 seconds long or something to be like, that's impressive. And if you go back and watch that on the theatrical version, knowing that that's the one that was released in 83, that's insane, the amount of work that went into. Now you watch it on Blu-ray, you're like, I don't even know if that is CG or practical or whatever. So it removes the whole, wow, that was done in 1983 angle. Yeah. But I'm fortunate enough to have the theatrical versions, and you're like, they are still insanely impressive.
Yeah.
Really good stuff.
So did it ever, and this is something I read within the last year, but it never crossed my mind up until somebody posed the question. How did the Ewoks have a dress that fit Leia? Boom. I mean, I have no answer for that, but I mean, and then what if 3PO wasn't there? Then these cannibals who just dressed Leia in Woodland's outfit would have eaten Luke and Han. Yeah.
I think the dress thing, with maybe some Ewok seamstresses there that were pretty quick.
Lightning fast, man.
Lightning fast. Gotcha. Or maybe, if you, I don't know whether they're canon or not, the Ewok movies, but there were humans. There was humans in that, little blonde-haired humans, whatever. So maybe they'd met humans before. Maybe they'd eaten one of them and that was her dress. I don't know.
Yeah. So did you watch the Ewok animated series?
I've not seen I do have the animated one, but I've not seen them. No.
I have not either. And I found a animation cell. I think I put it back in the safe. But anyway, I don't even know where I got this thing. You were
telling me a story at one point where somebody sent it to you because you knew them and they were like, have it. You're like, all right.
Yeah. But I was going to send it to somebody if I could figure out how to send it to this lady who collects them, because I mean, and yes, I did Google it, and it seems like it's worth maybe $50 or whatever. But I mean, if it would bring this lady some joy to add one more to her, string of like 200, then man, I'm down with that.
Definitely.
But yeah, I don't know who passed it to me, and my buddy who did animation for Disney was the one who said, oh, I think that's such and such a character from the Ewok animated series. But anyway, all these things came from Return of the Jedi.
It did. There was a droids cartoon and Ewoks and 2 movies, 2 TV movies. One which got shown at the cinema over here. I don't know which one it was, whether it was Battlefriend or Caravan of Courage. Can't remember because I didn't go watch it. But but I was obsessed with Jedi. And then just the trilogy of films I would just constantly rewatch, whether it's from recorded TV broadcasts or eventually, which my mind was blown when these were released onto VHS. It was years after. So I'm guessing it was just constant cinema releases that I would watch these things on.
And Lucas would do that even before the special editions.
Yeah,
a lot of times. It's like, hey, here's your chance. Yeah.
I saw a double bill with Star Wars and Empire. I saw the triple bill with Star Wars, Empire, and Jedi. Stayed in there, watched it twice. 12 hours I was in there. Amazing. Love it.
Wow, man. So what was your thought when Han is ready to concede and just like, I know, you've got feelings for Luke, right? And Leia is just like, you're a dumbass. You're a moron. He's my brother. But wait, you kissed him. So
I like his look. I like his like. I really want to ask more about this story, but at the end of the day, I don't care because I may jeopardize my chances. So he does this little look. He's like, okay, that sort of thing, and I think that's brilliant. And it's little hints of the Harrison that we would see in the Indiana Jones movie. So that's sort of like, I'm not going to ask.
Right.
But I liked it. I don't think I have, well, certainly the theatrical version, so I have no issues with any of it. Maybe I was a little bit like, okay, Vader turned good all of a sudden. That was a bit fast. Evil, get off my son. You're like, what? So maybe that's a slight, really tiny nitpick. But other than that, I was just, nowadays people would come out of Jedi go, and they'd have all the big lists of plot holes and stuff. It's like, as a kid, 12 years old, I didn't care. I'm like, I've just seen the best movie ever, and I want to go back in and watch it again. And I probably did.
Yeah. Dude, it was a gift. Every Star Wars movie, both the original and the prequels, they were all gifts. I mean, whether I remember, and we'll get into it more when we, do the episode 1 Phantom Menace episode. But I mean, like, I was a little insulted. It's kind of like, so you're going to mansplain the Force? I mean, like metachlorians and all this stuff. And so, but then, but it was still a gift. And so then on rewatch, it was a whole lot better. I used to make fun of Anakin's poor acting. You are a space angel.
Yippee!
That's not even the way he said that.
Yippee! It's like,
But I mean, I don't remember ever making fun of the original trilogy. And I think
there's nothing to make fun of, I don't think. For me, anyway, it's like there was nothing in here that I could go, well, actually, that's kind of hokey or weird. Nothing at all.
So what collectibles did you grab for Return?
Lots. I had loads of the figures. I had lots of them. I used to take the polystyrene packaging out of things that got delivered to the house, and I would turn that into a Hoth base and just make like a Jabba's palace, because there wasn't really a proper kit that you could buy a Jabba's palace one. But I had those. There was an X-wing. Never had a TIE fighter, unfortunately. I did Jedi time have an AT-AT, which I still think that is the coolest model.
Man.
So I had a lot of them. I had a lot of the posters. My wall was just covered. I was obsessed with the Jedi and the whole Star Wars trilogy. I had the soundtracks, the double album. Yeah, a lot of them.
So that was back when posters went on the wall with thumbtacks, right? And we didn't think about it. And then if we wanted the soundtrack, that was vinyl. And you could see the art. It was so beautiful. And then you would hear every imperfection in the vinyl. But I mean, it would always take me back to, to the movie. I could re-experience it. Kind of like you and I have discussed Close Encounters of the Third Kind as well. There's just something magical about that score. And again, I mean, it's Williams. It's his work. So, yeah man. But I remember I never collected any lightsabers until I want to say that was like the prequels. But I had a Han Solo blaster. I was trying to think what else. And it's funny, you had an X-wing fighter. I had two TIE fighters that went with the little figures. So there was Darth Vader's and then just a regular Imperial TIE fighter, whatever that was. And then I don't think I had any. I did have like some models. I'll take some pictures and post them because they are. I mean, I even have this one store was going out of business, and so I bought like 2 of every model. They were like $1 a piece. And so I built one, and the other is still in the box. I don't know if they're worth anything or not. And so I was trying to think of what else, man. It's interesting when you, because I've always wanted a C-3PO head. Not that I would put it on, but I mean, I I think that would be a cool addition to my collection. And doing research on it, it's like, oh well, so which version,
Yeah, it's
from
like,
New Hope or
just not the
Empire,
Phantom Menace one. The Phantom Menace one's a bit crap, isn't it? Because he's not even finished. I
Oh
don't want that one.
yeah. But that was an interesting rig, man. That guy who was the puppeteer, man.
Yeah.
Trying to think what else, man. I've got do you have a favorite spaceship from Star Wars?
I think Jedi. I'm going Shuttle Tidarium. The one that Vader comes in on at the beginning, or the Emperor comes in at the beginning. I like that ship. The AT-AT from Empire. Yeah. I think if it was a fight between Tidarium and the AT-AT probably would win.
Yeah.
But I do like Tidarium. I like the Snowspeeder.
Yeah.
So I think I have a tiny little. No, I don't. I thought I had a Snowspeeder. I don't. I've got a Slave one and a Millennium Falcon.
I hear you.
Yeah. So I've got those. But what about yourself? Is there a favorite? Is there a standout one for you?
I guess I will forever be a Millennium Falcon guy. But
that one. That's my little Millennium Falcon there.
Oh, dude.
Tiny one. Yeah.
I think I've got that one. I mean, I did that. It was at lunch weeks and weeks ago where I was thinking, which do I have more of, Spider-Man or Deadpool? And turns out it was Batman, which Michelle goes, well, that's who you are in your heart, is Batman. Yes. So, but as far as my collection of spaceships, it's probably, and I'll have to look out in we have a side room on the garage, and that has some models and stuff in it too. But I think the Millennium Falcon would win. But the Slave One is another one, whether it's
pretty good.
Which version of the Slave One, as far as Jango Fett versus Boba Fett.
I'd probably go Boba Fett. Yeah, they both look similar, but I would always, if there's a choice between the sequel, the prequel trilogy and the sequel trilogy, I will always go original trilogy if there's that option on the menu, I think, for me personally.
Well, and I think he had a good plan. Make it look like an old junker, have the panels being different, and there's two friends of mine who, one of them owned a string of restaurants, and he drove around in some beat up old Pinto. I mean, it was, but he said that way when he came and went from work or wherever he went, no one asked him for money. Nobody wanted anything. And so, yeah, man, I mean, that's smart. But so I think Boba Fett kind of had that going on. I still think it's funny that you could keep, when we were watching The Mandalorian, the Beskar would stop a lightsaber, right? Mm-hmm. But yet somehow Boba Fett got a big dent in the helmet. So, and I mean, from what I understand, that came from when they did the original mold, there was some bubble or whatever. So they decided, hey, let's just make it into a dent. I don't know why they wouldn't have created a new one, man. I mean, you're only Industrial Light and Magic. Yeah. But yeah, man. So if you have a favorite spaceship of all time, not, even outside of Star Wars, and I know,
it's probably it may be the 1701D from Next Generation, the Enterprise, possibly. Yeah. I do like the Colonial Vipers from the original Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah,
they're fine from the remake one, but I like the original ones.
Yeah,
out of pure nostalgia. Or possibly the USS Cygnus from the Black Hole. I think was a cool looking ship. God, I need to I'm pure geek.
So probably, oh my goodness, my favorite ship is probably this one from The Expanse.
Wow, yeah,
because it was so simple, and was built using real world physics best they could.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I mean, The Expanse, I still miss that TV show.
I was never a huge fan of was it the B-Wing of Jedi? Just the skinny one that looked like a...
Yep.
That's all that about. I'd be like, John, you're flying an X-Wing. Yes. You're flying a Y-Wing. Yes. You're flying the B-Wing.
Right.
Oh, fuck.
Right.
I don't want to fly the B. They're not a cool looking ship, those things, really.
What was the one from... I can't remember if it was the prequels or it was the sequels, but they, instead of just having the X, it was they had 3 wings. It was just all spread out.
Yeah, I remember seeing. I think that was from the prequels.
Yeah. So that was kind of weird. I mean, there was one guy I expressed my love of Star Wars, and this jackass was like, "Well, the X-wings never would have flown." Really? I don't care, man. I mean, like they were still badass. I
I'd
mean,
be
like,
like, but they did, because I've got them on VHS because I
right,
recorded it, cut the adverts out with the pause button.
right.
They flew.
Dude,
Yeah.
that's a passion for Star Wars right there, man. Cutting out all those commercials.
And then obviously Jedi ended, and it
Yeah,
was like, that's it.
yeah,
I don't think there ever was, are we going to get any more Star Wars films? I think we just generally came out of the third one going, that was
yeah,
an amazing trilogy. I'm just going to queue
yeah,
up and watch them again or whatever. There was never like, we need
yep.
more, we need more. There's so many unanswered questions. I don't think there were
Yeah,
any. I think we were happy to
no.
just
They
enjoy what we
wrapped it up.
enjoyed. They did wrap it up
Yeah.
really well.
And two, I think, with each one, I don't know that Lucas knew that he was going to make another one. I know the
No.
first one was done, and then it's like, okay, now we can make the second one, but I don't think the third one was really was guaranteed.
No.
And so, but I mean, the fact that he did wrap it all up in the end. I mean,
Yeah.
like, if they're plot holes, I don't care.
I genuinely struggle if you said, tell me some plot holes in the original trilogy. I'd have to
Yeah.
sit down for a little bit and go, let me try and think of some. There's nothing that glares. I'm sure Star Wars fans
Mm-mm.
watching this will be like, what about that one? I don't know.
Right.
I'm okay with plot holes because it's like, we don't know everything that's going on in everybody's life. Is that a plot hole, or is
Right.
that just an unanswered question that we haven't been
Right.
fed the answer? I don't need
Well,
things feeding.
yeah. Well, it's like when you were watching 24. Did you ever wonder when Jack went to the bathroom?
Oh, I knew when it
Because
was
he was
when it
always
was
on
showing
the road, man.
when it was showing the bad guys. He was just
I guess
peeing
so,
in a bottle
man.
or whatever
Right.
during the ad breaks, because there were ad breaks.
That's a police song, isn't it?
Yes,
Peeing in a
I think
bottle.
it
Yeah.
is. Yeah, they changed the lyrics
Sorry,
thankfully,
Sting.
but
Yeah.
that's pretty much. But yeah, everything was wrapped up, and I spent at least a couple of years after that playing with Star Wars figures and just
Yeah.
being obsessed in that world. And
Yeah.
it's fun. I do miss those times. I didn't. My childhood kind of sucked, but the movie watching side of it was amazing. And it's just, I'm really glad I lived through the time. I'd like to have been a little older so that I could have appreciated Star Wars, the first one, in theaters when it came out. But I got to fully appreciate Empire, definitely Jedi, when it came out. I was a prime age, like 12 years old, to watch Ewoks and Jabba the Hutt and Rancors and all that sort of stuff. That poor old Rancor keeper crying his eyes out. Pet got killed.
So in Book of Boba Fett, did you like that he rode on a Rancor? I mean, did you like that he adopted this beast? And man,
it kind of worked.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's because a lot of people now, I mean, you see a lot of the Star Wars fans now, they probably weren't even around when the original trilogy, but yeah, and I'm sure it's not all of them, but a lot of them take ownership over, you don't understand Star Wars. We do, because we were there when the whole damn thing began.
Right.
And it ended after the third film, and then that was it, other than the Ewok movies, which would come around a couple of years later. And that was it. There was no, I don't even think there was any novels other than the novelizations. I don't think they were
they were not all that accurate. I remember buying Empire Strikes Back, and I still have it. And but I was reading through it, and then it was like when Leia says, "I love you," and Han answers, "I love you too." And I'm like, "What?" That was when I put it down. I was like, now Michelle's home. Now she's got something. Now
she's got a reason to bark for.
Yeah. And of course, she's not going upstairs. She's staying down here. I'm going to say that she's protecting me, but she may be just wanting me to leap over the couch if something, comes around the corner. So.
Possibly. But it was fun times. Jedi's still my favorite Star Wars film. And I think this nostalgia has a lot of, nostalgia does hold a lot of power as to what makes a film a good film.
And I think pacing, it was more even. I still enjoy New Hope, but I mean, it was much slower, which that was what made me love Mandalorian so much, was that pacing. But I think Jedi certainly, it had a faster pacing to it. But it is funny. I was thinking just yesterday, because I knew we were going to talk about this, and I was like, it's almost like a time traveler. You know what I mean? Where we're talking about a movie that, like you say, most people weren't even alive to see.
No, they weren't. No.
Yeah, it's kind of like when Jake talks about Terminator. Maybe it was even Terminator 2. I think it was 2 when Terminator 2 came out, but Terminator 1, he wasn't even around. But I mean, I remember seeing that in the theater. So yeah. But it's like that joke where hi, I'm John. I'm a time traveler from the 19th century. Yes. When you separate it out that much, it's, I don't know. I mean, it's like, I guess in another 20 years, then the kids will be like going, yeah, you remember back in 16? And that makes me think about when I wasn't alive back and it was 1916. But I mean, I'm thinking Wright brothers. I'm thinking, so yeah.
And that's why I wanted to do these, certainly the original trilogy. And I was always thinking Phantom Menace would fit into that as well. Mm-hmm. It is like time travel, because we've talked about seeing things, there was no internet. We saw a picture in a magazine and we queued up outside and all this sort of stuff. And I think a lot of people who were not even around back then might listen to this and go, wow, how old are these dudes?
Yeah.
How old are these chicks, dudes, whatever.
Yeah, that's right.
and find it interesting. But I love sort of mentally taking a trip back to what it was like to watch real. I don't think we watch our favorite classic films as much as we certainly did when we were kids. I haven't seen Jedi in years. I do own it, but multiple different versions. But I haven't seen it in a long time. It's like, what happened?
What I'm thinking about how many. It's like I still have Star Wars calendar from, I guess it was 78. I have a book of iron-on decals that also was from the original Star Wars. They sold this thing that was like all the blueprints of the different spaceships and stuff. And you'd pull out each one and unfold it like a giant map, and you could see, like the inner workings and stuff. And yeah, man, one of these days, I guess I do need to add to my YouTube channel, and
it would be incredible.
The Star Wars stuff, man.
But people thrive upon them though, and it's like I found out with opening the Star Wars YouTube channel, it's like, people they want to see everything.
Yeah,
and it's like I did a video on a Death Star clock that I have, and that's had like 50 views. Like people are just looking at a clock.
Wow,
so it's
man!
Like all this weird, quirky stuff that's out there, and people find it interesting. Especially, it's not like, oh, look at this crappy clock. It's like, look at how cool this clock is. So if it's in a positive spin, but the amount of stuff that you've got, I think I would happily just watch all your videos about all your cool stuff. There's always a little story behind them as well, so it works even better.
Yeah. So I do need to dust. There's so much stuff behind, or to the side of my desk, and I do need to dust it because it's been years. And I have an R2D2 phone, and and so and sorry, it's getting excited because my sexy wife just appeared. Like, help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi.
You're my Obi-Wan.
But the R2D2 phone is in the very back of this one shelf because it's so tall. But yeah, man, I mean, like, there's a lot of stuff that I should just document and put out there. But that was the story behind it. No, we'll wrap up after this. But it's like, I thought it was the coolest thing. It sat on my desk back in I guess it was the 90s. And, you had a cord. I mean, it was very much a traditional phone, but it was R2D2. And so, but the downside to it was, if it rang, it sounded just like R2D2, which was amazing until you picked it up and tried to answer, and it would finish the run of sounds before it would stop. So, so my clients would call up and they're like, what the hell is that? Is that R2D2? Yes, it is. I'm sorry. Yeah. So I...
You have to sort of retire that phone and get a proper professional phone.
Right, right. And now everybody has a cell phone and no landlines. So
No.
yeah.
But yeah, thank you for the
Yeah.
nostalgia trip with Jedi.
Oh, it's my pleasure, man. I look forward to doing the prequels too.
Me too. That means I've got to watch 2 of them. You know.
Yeah.
I'll do that. I'll do that for you.
It's funny taking the kids to see episode 1 and then episode 2 and then episode 3 I saw with a bunch of friends and we went to the midnight showing. And that was, my kids didn't grow up with a lot of gore and stuff. So when they were watching it, I guess on DVD, I had to, like when, I thought you were my brother or whatever that line was.
The legs come off. You're like, whoa.
Okay, kids. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So it was, I mean, like my kids were much older when they rewatched it and they were like, why did you stop us? This is nothing compared to what we watched today. So I'm like, well, all right.
Trying to look after you, trying to be a good parent, and you're just punishing me for it.
I know,
Crazy.
really.